Hi friends, and in this session we would do time and work. Time and work is an important concept as far as our competitive exams are concerned, and there would be around 1 to 2 questions in our CSET or Bank PO exams from this topic. So let's do time and work. The agenda would be very simple. We would do some basic fundas and then see the important test cases which appear in exam. So before introducing any formula or something like that, let's understand few things through some questions. So first question says a person completes a job in 5 days. How many days does it take to complete 2 such jobs? So for example, you complete a program in 5 days. If you want to write 2 such programs, how many days would you take? You would take 2 multiplied by 5, which is equal to 10 days. So this is simple chain rule. One job takes 5 days, 2 jobs would take how many? Simple 10 days, right? This is simple chain rule. Now in the same question, if we tweak the question, we have to again apply the chain rule. It says that a person can complete a job in 10 days. How much job he does in 5 days? So in 10 days he complete 1 job. In 1 day, how much part of job is done? 1 by 10th, right? And in 5 days, what would be done is 5 by 10 or 0.5, right? So this is again a simple application of chain rule. Now here we take the total job as 1, right? We could also take total job as 10 or 100 or 200 or any number, right? So in that case, in 10 days he complete 10 units of job, and 10 units means the total job, right? In 1 day, how many units would he do? He would do 1 unit, and in 5 days he would do 5 units. Now total job was 10 units. In 5 days he has done 5 units, which means 5 out of 10 units he did in 10 days, right? In 5 days, which means he has done 50% of his job in these 5 days. So here you would see the calculations are slightly reduced, right? You are just calculating at the end of the questions, and before that it's very plain and simple. There are no reciprocals involved, right? So we can assume anything for the unit of jobs, units of job, right? Generally book says we assume 1 unit, but we can anyways assume 10 units as well, and this would make our calculations easy, as we see in further questions. This question is similar to the one which is previous, so let's not do this. Let's do this one. A person A completes the job in 5 days. Now a person B joins in, who again completes the job in 5 days if he work alone, right? If they work together, in how many days do they do the job? So to solve these questions, let's introduce few steps. So step 1 is find the work done by each in 1 day, right? The most illogical answer would be 5 plus 5, taking an average of these, right? So 5 plus 5 by 2 is equal to 5. Now see, A completes job in 5 days, B complete in 5 days. If they are working together, it should be less than 5 days, right? So average cannot be answer in this case. So this is clearly wrong. So we are introducing few steps to solve it. Step 1 says find the work done by each in 1 day. So A's 1 day work is equal to what? 1 by 5. Similarly, B's 1 day work is 1 by 5. Step 2 says find total work done in 1 day. So in 1 day, A does 1/5, B does 1/5, total is 2/5. So 2/5 of the work was done in one day, right? 2/5 of the work, and final step is find the number of days. So 2/5 of the work was done in one day. So complete work is 1, which would be done in 1 divided by 2 by 5, which is equal to 5 by 2 days, which is equal to 2.5 days, right? So this is how we do it. Now we have here 1 by 5, 1 by 5 and 2 by 5. Can we also assume that total unit of work to be done was 5 units, right? If we assume this, so A's 1 day work would be 1 unit, B's 1 day work would be 1 unit, total work done in 1 day would be 2 units, right? So in 1 day 2 units are done, but what we require is 5 units, right? So for 2 units we require 1 day. For 5 units what we would require is 1 by 2 multiplied by 5, which is equal to 5 by 2 again, which is equal to 2.5 days. So you would see that calculations are just shifted to the final part of the questions, and before that our question is very clean, right? So this again was an easy question because we have 5 and 5, but as and when the calculations become more tough, you would see this method works very beautifully, right? Now next question, in next question the only change is B is doing the work in 4 days, right? So we have to find A's 1 day work, which is 1 by 5, and B's 1 day work, which is 1 by 4, add it to get total 1 day's work, which is 9 by 20, and the number of days required would be 20 by 9, right? Or conversely, we can assume the number of units of work in such a way that it is divisible by both 5 and 4, right? So we can assume that number of units of work were 20. So A's 1 day work was 4 units, B's 1 day work was 5 units, total 1 day work was 9 units. So 9 units were done in 1 day. We have to find in how many days 20 units are done. So 20 units would be done in 1 by 9 multiplied by 20, which is equal to 20 by 9 days, right? So calculations are reduced to quite a large extent. These were very basic examples. Now as and when we go to these test cases, you would see how beautifully the concept of taking a multiple works. So it is always advisable to take the multiple of the days as the total amount of work, right? So let's go to question first, which says A and B can do a job in 20 and 30 days respectively. If they work together, how many days do they take to complete the job, right? Just take 1 or 2 minutes to do this question, right? Use whatever method is convenient for you, and then we'll see how we would do it together. So let's do it together. A can do the work in 20 days, B in 30 days. So what we can assume is total units of work is 600 or 60, whatever is divisible by both 20 and 30. So LCM can be taken or simple multiple can be taken. So let's take it 600. So A's 1 day work is what? 30. B's 1 day work would be 20, right? Total 1 day work would be 50, right? So number of days required would be 600 by 50, which is equal to 12 days. So see how beautifully the calculations are reduced. If had you used the conventional method, you would have done 1 by 20 plus 1 by 30, right? Taken the LCM of these two, it would have become 50 by 600, right? Again it would be 600 by 50, which is equal to 12 days, right? But here you have to take the LCMs and do the calculations and all that stuff. Here it was pretty simple and you have to do minimal calculations, right? Let's go to second case, which comes very often in exam, which says A and B can together do the work in 12 days and A takes 28 days to complete the job alone, right? How many days does B take to do it on his own? So again 1 to 2 minutes for this. Try and do it. So let's do it. So A can do the work in 28 days. So which means A's 1 day work was 1 by 28. Let's assume B's 1 day work was 1 by B. So B takes B days. So B's 1 day work would become 1 by B, right? So this would be equal to total 1 day work. So total 1 day work was 1 by 12, right? If you just calculate from here, it would become 1 by 28, 1 by 12 minus 1 by 28 is equal to 1 by B, right? So this means 16 divided by 12 into 28 is equal to 1 by B, or B is equal to 3 into 7, 21 days. So B can complete this work alone in 21 days. There can be an easier method as well. So let's assume the total units of work is how much? We can assume it as 28 days, right? Now if A and B are working together, they can complete it in 12 days. If total unit of work is 28 days, how many units does A cover in 12 days? So A would do 12 units in 12 days, right? So these many units are done by A. How many units are left to be done by B? They are 28 minus 12, which is equal to 16 units. So 16 units of work was done by B in 12 days, right? But the total amount of work was 28, right? So 16 units were done by B in 12 days. 1 unit would be done in how many days? 12 by 16. Total unit of work was 28, right? So 28 units would be done by him in how many days? It would become 3 by 4, this multiplied by 28, which would be equal to 21, right? Again you see that the calculations were just brought down to the end of this question. You don't have any calculations beforehand, right? So what we have done is we have calculated that in those 12 days how much does A contributed. So if total work was 28, A contributed, total units were 28, A contributed 12 units, and remaining 16 units were done by B, right? And B also worked for 12 days. Now we have to just find how many days does B require to contribute 20 units. So this become a simple question of unitary method or chain rule, right? So our basic funda here is to change the entire question to the chain rule question, right? Let's go to next question, for which you would again get 2 minutes to solve this. The question says A and B can do a job in 10 and 15 days respectively if they start together and work on alternate days. How many days do they take to complete the job, right? Now here the clause is added that they work on alternate days and A starts the work on first day, right? So just try and do it. You have around 2 minutes to do this question. Thank you. So let's do it. This is very similar to what we have done before, but only difference is here they are working on alternate days, which means on day 1 A works, on day 2 B works, on days 3 A works, on day 4 B works, and so on till the job is completed. So how to do it? Again, let's assume the total units of work is what is divisible by both 10 and 15. So it can be 30, right? Or it can be 150 as well. So I'll take 150. You don't have to calculate LCM, you can just multiply these two terms as well, right? So A's 1 day work would be 15 units, B's 1 day work 10 units, right? So if A and B works alternatively, in 2 days they would complete 25 units of work, right? So on first day A would complete 15, on second day B would complete 10, right? So by second day 25 units are completed, by fourth day another 25 are completed, so similarly in the pair of 2 days 25 are completed. So for 150 units how many such pairs are required? 6 such pairs are required, right? So 150 divided by 25 is equal to 6. So 6 such pairs of 2 days are required, which means that the total number of days required would be 12, because each pair contains 2 days. So total number of days required would be 12, right? So let's go to next question, which says A and B can do the job in 10 and 15 days respectively if they start together and work for 3 days, after which B leaves and A has to complete the job. How many days do they take to complete the job? This is just a slight twist to the question. Try and solve it in around 1.5 minutes. So let's do it. Let's try the conventional method and how difficult can the calculations be in this case, right? So what we have to do is we have to find 1 day work of A and 1 day work of B to find total 1 day work, right? It would be 25 by 150, right? Which is equal to 1 by 6. So in 1 day, if they work together, they do 1/6 of the work. Now he says that they work for 3 days together, and after which B leaves. So in 3 days, how much work would be done? 3 by 6, which is equal to 1 by 2, right? So half the work is done. Now half the work is left, right? Half the work A has to do. Now A in 1 day does 1/10 of the work, right? So in 1 day, A does 1/10 of the work, or 1/10 of the work is done by A in 1 day. So half of the work would be done in how many days? It would be done in 5 days, right? So total amount of days which are spent by A and B would be 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. So in 8 days they would be able to do the work completely. So these reciprocals and all that stuff are not at all required if we use the total units of work as 150, right? So in 1 day, A and B, as we did in earlier example, do 25 units of work. And how many would they do in 3 days? 25 into 3, which is equal to 75. So residual work is 150 minus 75, 75 units, which has to be done by A, and A does one, how many? 15 units per day, right? A does 15 units per day. For 75 units, he would take 75 by 15, which is equal to 5 days. So total days are 5 plus 3, 8. So here you see the calculations are without any denominator, without any fraction, and I feel that calculation without any fractions are much more easier to handle, right? If you feel otherwise, you can use the conventional method as well. Now let's go to another case which is common in our exams. It says A and B can do again the same thing, 10 and 15 days respectively, if they start together and work for few days, after which B leaves and A takes 5 days more to complete the job. How many days does they take to how many days do they work together, right? So this is just opposite to the question which we have just solved. So try and solve it as a fresh question. You have around 1 minute to do it. So let's do it. Assume total unit of work as, let's take 30 this time, right? So A's 1 day work would be is equal to how much? 3 units. B's would be how much? 2 units, right? Now for some time A and B work together, and then B left and A had to put 5 more days to complete the work. So A alone does 5 into 3 is equal to 15 units, right? And what is left is 30 minus 15, which is 15 units. So both A and B works together to complete these 15 units, right? So they would complete these 15 units in how many days? 15 divided by 3 plus 2, which is 5. So 15 divided by 5, and which is equal to 3 days, right? So which means that A and B worked for 3 days together, and then B left and A has to put 5 days more to complete the work. So answer would be 3 days. You can see that the calculations are just minimal if we assume the number of units to be a certain number, which is divisible by the number of days given in the question. Next question. A works thrice as efficiently as B and therefore takes 40 days less to complete a task. How many days does each of them take to complete the task individually, right? Just read the question and try to do it. I'll give you 2 minutes for this. So let's see how to do it. So A works thrice as efficiently as B. So if B does 1 unit of work, 1 unit per day, A would do how many units? Would do 3 units per day, right? This is what is meant by efficiency, right? If A does 1 unit, if B does 1 unit, A would do 3 units, right? And therefore A takes 40 days less to complete the task, right? How many days does each take to complete the task individually? Now if the task has T units, right, to be completed, how many days would B take to complete these T units? B would take T days, right? Because he is completing 1 unit per day, B would take T days. And A would take how many days? T by 3 days, right? This is what A would take. Now the difference between these two is 2 by 3T, which is given to be equal to 2, we can write 2T by 3, which is equal to 40, right? That's what is given. So T becomes 60. So total number of units are 60 and B takes T days. So B takes 60 days and A takes 20 days. So that's how we do this question, right? Now let's go to next question, which says again the same A and B are there. They're working together 10 and 15 days. So similar kind of question, just try and do it. We have 1 or 2 minutes for this. Just read and do it. Since we already have most of the information, let's do it. Let's take total number of units 150. A's one day work would be 15, B's one day work would be 10, right? If the efficiency is the same, right? So in one day they are doing 25 units. Till 5 days A's efficiency is intact, which is 100%. So here both of them has done 125 units of work. What is left is 25 units, right? Now A's efficiency drop to half, right? Which means initially A was doing 15 units, now he would be doing 7.5 units, right? So in one day A and B together would be doing 10 plus 7.5, which is equal to 17.10 plus 7.5, which is equal to 17.5 units. Now they have to complete 25 units. So how many days would they require? 25 divided by 7.5, whatever is the answer would be the number of days to require to complete this task. So the total number of days would be 5 plus this number. So this number is what? 250 by 175, right? We can write it like this, which means 10 by 7, right? So 10 by 7 days would be required to complete this task. So 5 plus 10 by 7, which is 45 by 7, which is equal to 6.442 and something days, right? So 6.42 days would they require to complete this. So again, see, by taking 150 the calculations become very sleek and very simple, right? Now next question. This is slightly different from what we have been doing till now, but nevertheless we can try this. So A and B can finish a task in 12 days, B and C in 15 days, C and A in 20 days. In how many days does each of them complete the task individually, right? So try and do this. You have 2 to 3 minutes for this question. So let's do it. Let's assume that A does the work in A days, B does the work in B days, and C does the work in C days. So what we can write is 1 by A plus 1 by B is equal to 1 by 12, right? A's 1 day work plus B's 1 day work is equal to total 1 day work, right? So total work was done in 12 days. So in 1 day, what work is done? 1 by 12, right? Similarly, 1 by B plus 1 by C would be equal to 1 by 15. And finally, 1 by C plus 1 by A is equal to 1 by 20, right? So we have three equations, three variables. Just solve these three variables. So subtract this and this, you would get 1 by A minus 1 by C is equal to 1 by 12 minus 1 by 15, right? And add that to this, you would get 1 by A. So and thus you would get A, and from A, if you once you get A, you can find B and C respectively, right? So this was simple question of linear equations, right? In this we don't need to take some total units of work because things would become complicated. So you have to just see when calculations are reduced and when they are increased by taking total units of work. Let's go to next question. So in this question we have some different concept. We have taps and a tank, or taps and a cistern, as question may ask that there are few taps which are connected to a tank or a cistern and they fill them in X number of hours. So if they work together, how much time do they take to fill the tank? So it's very similar to doing the work. So doing the work is also like filling the tank, right? Or filling the tank can also be substituted as doing the work. So let's see what this question says. So A and B are two taps which can fill a tank in 10 and 15 hours respectively. If they started together, how many hours do they take to fill the tank? So it's similar to A and B can do the work in 10 and 15 days respectively. If they work together, how many hours do they take to complete the task? So in this case we know it would be how many? 6 hours, right? Because we already know that if the volume of tank in this case is 150, A fills 15 liters in 1 hour, B fills 10 liters in 1 hour. So in 1 hour total volume which is filled is 25 liters and total volume of the tank is 150 liters. So how many hours would be required? 150 divided by 25, which is equal to 6 hours. Now the only difference here is there can be a tap who can empty the tank, right? So for example, here A and B fills in 10 and 15 and there is a tap C which empties in 20 hours. Now if they are started together, A and B would be filling but C would be taking some volume out of it, right? So we have to keep that in mind as well and then see how much time does it take to fill the tank. So in this case we'll assume the volume in such a way that it's divisible by 10, 15 and 20. So let the volume be 300, right? So in 1 hour how much does A fills? 30, right? How much does B fills? 20. So 50 is filled but C is taking out 20. So C is taking out 300 by 20, which is equal to how much? 15 liters, right? So in 1 hour what volume goes in? It goes in 35, right? So 35 liter goes in and volume of tank we assumed was 300. So 300 divided by 35 would be the number of hours required to fill the tank, which is equal to 60 by 7 hours. So this many hours are required to fill the tank. So since we have a negative work or tap which is emptying the tank, so we have to take that in mind as well, and rest of the question remains the same. So the last type of question in time work is similar one but slightly with different wordings, so let's do it as well. In a war zone, food is available for 2000 soldiers for 1 month. So 1 month is equal to 30 days. After 10 days 1000 more soldiers join in. For how many days does the food suffice? So this is also similar, right? So there are 2000 soldiers and there was enough food for them for 30 days. So if each soldier eats 1 unit of food each day, total units of food sufficient for 2000 soldiers would be this much. So this much food was sufficient for them for 30 days. Now they have already eaten how much amount of food? This they have already eaten. So what is left is 2000 divided by 20. If they were 2000 only, this food would suffice for 20 days. But now 1000 more soldiers join, so the total soldiers become 3000, and total unit of food we have is 2000 into 20. So how many days would it suffice for? Would be 2000 into 20 divided by 3000, which is equal to 40 by 3, right? Which is equal to 13.33 days. So total days would be 10 plus 13.33, which is equal to 23.33. So the food would suffice for 23.33 if 1000 more soldiers join in after 10 days. So this is very similar to the work time problem and the pipes and cistern problems. So this is all for this session. I hope that you enjoyed this session and you found a good and beneficial technique to solve time and work questions. Thanks for watching this session, and all the best for your future. Thank you.